Hey, what's up, y'all? And welcome to Life According to Cree, the podcast. As y'all know, it's Tuesday night, so it's time for our weekly installment of Cree Said What? Where we talk about what's trending, what's hot, what's sometimes not, and what we need to know right now. I am your host, Cree Cole, and tonight we're getting into some conversations that are layered, emotional, uncomfortable, and necessary. Because this week, the word that keeps coming up for me is accountability. Not the kind of accountability that people be performing online. Like, if we keep it a whole book, it's a word that is completely overused and a lot of times misapplied. Not the kind that only shows up when it's easy. Not the kind that applies to people we already do not like. I'm talking about real accountability. The kind that asks who gets protected, who gets punished, who's believed, who gets excused, and who gets judged before all the facts are even finished being said. Tonight, we are talking about the aftermath of the Rick Chow verdict here in South Carolina. We're talking about the calls to boycott Asian owned businesses in predominantly Black communities. We're going to add a little bit of historical context to it, how many of those businesses ended up in Black neighborhoods in the first place. And I'm also going to give you my point of view on the boycott conversations because, baby, I understand the pain, but I also believe we have to be careful, strategic, and clear. We're also going to recap some of the key developments in the Karmelo Anthony case, and talk about how Black teenagers have been under fire in this country for decades, whether it's from behind the barrel or in front of the gun. And before we get out of here, I would be remiss. I would be remiss if we did not talk about how what looked like a public unraveling of Donald Trump during the Meet the Press interview, because when people in power cannot handle follow-up questions, we need to talk about that too. Because sometimes what is trending is not just gossip. Sometimes what's trending tells us something about ourselves, the country we live in, the communities that we come from, and the systems we have to keep living in order to survive. So let's get into it. First, I want to talk about the Ricky Chow verdict again. And if you follow me, you know that on last week, the day after the verdict was released, there was a bonus episode uploaded to all platforms for you to get my initial, reactions to all of that. But in order to give more context, because I really didn't give that much context, it was more of an emotional video than an informational video. Tonight, we're going to get into it. For those who may not know, Rick Chow was a South Carolina convenience store owner charged in the shooting death of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton. Cyrus was killed in 2023 after being chased from the Chow store 130 yards. 130 yards. The prosecution argued that Cyrus was running away when he was shot in the back. The defense argued that Chow believed he was protecting his son. And on June 1st, a jury found Rick Chow not guilty of murder. Now, I know how people do after verdicts come down. Some folks want everyone to just keep it going, keep on moving, keep it pushing. They want to say, well, the jury heard the evidence. And yes, the jury did make a decision that is a legal outcome. But I need people to understand something. A legal outcome does not erase community pain. A not guilty verdict does not automatically feel like justice to people who are grieving. A courtroom decision does not bring closure to a mother who still has to live her life without her child. So while the case may have ended one way legally, emotionally, socially, this conversation is not over because a 14-year-old Black child is dead. Another Black teen. And for many people, especially in the Black community, that hurts. It hurts because it feels familiar. It hurts because we have seen too many times Black children are treated like threats first and children second. It hurts because people are tired. We've been tired of being asked to stay calm in the face of outcomes that feel anything but fair. And let me be clear, I am not here to retry the case from my little microphone right here. I wasn't in the jury room. I did not hear every single piece of evidence the way the jury heard it. But I am here to talk about impact. Because there's a difference between what the court decides and what the community as a whole sometimes feels. And what people feel right now is grief, frustration, disappointment, and even anger. Now, in the aftermath, there have been calls for boycotts. Cyrus's mother and community members have spoken out, and there has been a lot of conversation around boycotting Asian-owned businesses in predominantly Black neighborhoods, especially here in the state of South Carolina. And baby, this is where the conversation gets complicated because I understand the anger. Being the single mother of a young Black man who is now 25, I live at a constant level of fear, despite all the good, great things that are going on in our lives, of what may happen, what could happen, and whether or not those who do it, even anything that he does, that the correct level of accountability is had. And I understand why people are saying, do not spend your money where you are not respected. I understand why people are tired of walking into businesses in their own neighborhoods and feeling watched, feeling followed, rushed. And for those of you who got that whole mentality, that's the way it's always been, just because something has always been a way does not mean that it needs to remain that way. There are a lot of things that have always been a way or were always a way. They're not that way anymore. A conversation for another day as to why some of y'all that look like me have those type of points of views about situations like that. But walking into a space, feeling disrespected, talked down to, treated like a suspect before being treated like a customer, sparks conversations. Those feelings are real, and I'm not going to dismiss it. There are Black people who have had very real experiences with businesses operating in Black neighborhoods that profit off of Black dollars while treating Black people like platforms and problems. There are people who have been followed down aisles, accused of being in this place and that place, talked too crazy, or made to feel completely unwelcome in a space that's located in a community where they live, work, raise children, and spend their money. So, yes, I understand why people are angry, but I also think that we have to be careful because while the anger is actually valid, the anger is not always a strategy. So, before we just say run out here and go boycott, we need to talk about what boycott is supposed to do. And we need to talk about how so many businesses ended up in Black communities in the first place. A lot of Asian owned businesses did not just randomly appear in Black neighborhoods. There is a long history connected to immigration, economics, white flight, disinvestment, commercial rent, banking access, and the fact that many larger grocery stores and major retailers either left Black communities or were never in them in the first place. When a community is underserved, somebody is going to come in and serve it. And sometimes that meant immigrant families, no matter their nationality, came in, opened stores, worked long hours, and built their businesses in areas that investors ignored. When that happened, I'm not going to pretend like every Asian business owner in the black neighborhoods come in with bad intentions. That wouldn't be fair. And it wouldn't actually be true. But I am not going to pretend as if Black people have not had long standing frustrations with some of these businesses. Both things can be true. People can come into a community and work hard to build a business, and Black customers can still have legitimate concerns about being disrespected, watched, criminalized, or not valued. That is the tension, and that is not new. We have seen versions of this conversation before. We've seen it in different cities, different neighborhoods, different stores, different moments in history. We have seen what happens when economic frustrations, racial tension, grief, and lack of actual accountability collide. And underneath all of it is a bigger question. Who owns businesses in Black neighborhoods? Who owns the buildings? Who gets loan access? Who gets permits? Who gets protected? Who gets profit? Who hires from the community? Who gives back to the community? Who treats the community with dignity? Because that is the real conversation. So when people say boycott, and I ain't gonna lie to you, a lot of the conversation that I seen with people calling for boycotts, a lot of that conversation doesn't even stem from, especially on like TikTok and threads and stuff like that. A lot of that conversation doesn't even stem from creators here in South Carolina. I've seen creators calling for boycotts, but also making videos talking about how the child's former store has been burned down and all kind of things that just are not factual. The store is still very much together and intact. The store was vandalized back in 2023. The store has not been vandalized since the verdict. There have been protests, there have been rallies, there have been press conferences, and there have also been multiple police and police cars stationed around that store to protect it. It is very much intact. It is very much intact. So when people say boycott, I don't automatically dismiss it because there are frustrations, but I can say that a lot of those calls to action are people talking that ain't down here to put forth no action. Okay? Boycotts have always been a part of Black resistance. Black people know the power of withholding our dollars, our time, and our energy. We know that sometimes people don't listen to you until their money stop moving. We know that economic pressure can make people pay attention, but if we're going to boycott, we have to be strategic. It can't just be emotional. And with a lot of the calls to action that I've seen from different creators on the app in different areas, the videos are playing on people's emotions and not our common sense. It cannot just be a don't shop there without any plan for where the money goes instead. If we stop going to one business but don't organize around community standards, what have we really built? Because if we stop spending our money at one store but don't support a black-owned business as an alternative, what are we really changing? Are we demanding that the business hire from the community? Are we demanding that businesses hire only from the community? Are we demanding that they stop treating black customers like suspects? Are we demanding better security practices? Are we demanding community investment? Are we demanding that our dollars are treated better and circulated within the community in which they serve? Because if there are no demands, then it's just anger in motion. And I understand the anger, but I want us to have power when everything is said and done. And power requires strategy. Now, let me say this plain. I'm not interested in blaming every Asian person or every Asian owned business for what Rick Chow did. That's not justice. That's not right. And that is not or should not be the goal. But I am invested in black communities asking hard questions about who we spend with, who we support, who we trust, and who profits from us without disrespecting us. Unfortunately, that list is real short. That list is real short. I'm extremely interested in us saying if your business lives off black dollars, then respect for black people should not be optional. I'm interested in talking about black ownership, co-ops, etc. Because we can't have the conversation or can't only have one conversation after such a tragedy. We need to know who owns the corner stores in our neighborhoods. We need to know who owns the beauty supply stores, who owns the gas stations, who owns the building. We need to know who's getting the contracts, permits, licenses, loans, and protection. And we need to be honest about the fact that if black people do not own enough inside of our own communities, then we are always going to be having these types of conversations because there's no one else to fill the gaps. That does not excuse the disrespect. Hear me clear. It does not excuse the disrespect and harm, nor does it excuse what happened to Cyrus. But it does tell us that solution has to be bigger than just one boycott. It has to include ownership, investment, standards, organizing, political pressure. Because I've been saying from the get-go, somebody needs to have a conversation with the prosecutor. Why there were no lesser included charges blows my mind. Blows my mind. A plan also has to include economic education. It has to include black entrepreneurship and supporting it before we need it. You can't say, oh, well, now I'm going to go and get my press-ons from Ashley B that's been putting them online ever since COVID because I don't want to get them from Ming Lee. I know that's a little racist, but hell, that's all I had. That's all I had. Because, baby, if we are mad that we do not own enough, then we have to be more than just mad. We have to build. Now, there is a lot going on here in South Carolina, but I urge anyone who wants to be involved, who wants to donate to the family, who wants to travel here to help with different protests and things that they're currently doing in Columbia, South Carolina. There are multiple links online. The parent social media is active and kicking. Make sure that you reach out to the ACLU. If you go to their website, there are also links in regards to this case and what you can do. But what I need y'all to stop doing, especially if you're not here, if you ain't in the South Carolina, I need y'all to stop reporting false information. Because see, there are Asian creators that are currently getting online. We never see these people. I never see these people on my For You page. I never see these people on my timeline that are getting online, being ugly and nasty, following up people that ain't even here, that understand the pain, but ain't actually here in the state dealing with it. So let's make sure that we're being responsible in how we have these conversations going forward and who we're placing blame on. Because it's not all. Because we would have a fit. We have a fit when everybody else makes it seem as if it's all. We have to give others the same grace. Now I want to shift over to the Karmelo Anthony case, in which they started hearing closing arguments. Just to catch y'all up, Karmelo Anthony is the young black man charged in the fatal stabbing of Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet in Frisco, Texas. Austin Metcalf was 17. Karmelo Anthony is now 19. And this case drew national attention. And depending on where you are, you may or may not be getting, or where you're getting your information, you may be hearing different versions of what happened. The prosecution says Karmelo Anthony justifiably stabbed Austin. The defense says Karmelo was acting in self-defense. Testimony has ended and closing arguments are scheduled for June 9th, which is tomorrow. Well, today. Now let me pause. A young man is dead. Another young man is on trial, which is something that also touches me with being a former high school sport basketball coach, working real close with teams. You know, two families are living through painful, public, and life-changing event. So I'm not here to make light of that. I'm not here to celebrate anyone's pain, and I'm not here to treat this like entertainment because it's serious. But what I do want to talk about is how quickly black teenagers become public symbols. Because before all the facts are fully processed, before the verdict is reached, before the legal process is complete, people have already chosen the story that they want this young black man to represent. There are some who decided he's guilty, others innocent, other people using this case to talk about race, some just talking about crime rates, and some talking about self-defense. Some people are even using this case to prove whatever they already believed before anything about either of the young men. And that's dangerous. Because when a black teenager is accused of something, the public conversation shifts fast. Suddenly, they're not a teenager. They're not a student. They're not someone's son. They're not a young person caught in a tragic situation. They become dangerous. They become an adult. They become a threat, a headline, a symbol, a warning. And black teenagers have been under fire in this country for decades. It's not something that's new. Whether it was Emmett Till, the Central Park Five, Trayvon Martin, Khalif Browder, so many others, too many others. The names change, the cities change, the circumstances change, but the pattern is familiar. Black teens are often treated older than they are, more dangerous than they are, less innocent than they are, and less deserving of grace than other children. And let me say this, because I do not want anybody twisting my words, accountability matters. If someone causes harm, that harm has to be addressed. If someone takes a life, the seriousness of that cannot be minimized. And the consequences matter. Justice matters. But accountability should not require dehumanization. We should not be able to discuss harm without stripping a young person of their humanity. We should be able to grieve the loss of Austin Metcalf at the age of 17 and still be careful about how we talk about Karmelo Anthony. We should be able to respect the courtroom process and still question the court of public opinion, because those are two different places. We should be able to say that two families are hurting and still acknowledge that race shapes how America sees Black youth. That is what grown conversation looks like. Because this isn't about just one case. It's about how Black teenagers are seen, if they're even allowed to be children. In the Rick Chow case, it appears as if they're not even allowed to be scared. It's about whether they are allowed context. It is about whether people see their humanity before they see criminality. Because in this country, Black children are often not given the luxury of childhood. They don't always get the benefit of the doubt, the softness, the patience. They don't get the protection. And when something happens, the conversation becomes louder than their humanity. The comment sections become a courtroom. The headlines become verdicts. The mugshots become memories. And everybody has something to say. But the people closest to the pain are the ones who live with the outcome after the internet moves on. So as this case continues, my hope is that despite the odds, people slow down, think through the actual facts, let the legal process happen. Do not use a dead teenager or a Black teenager on trial to prop up their own personal politics. Do not use either family's pain as entertainment. As someone who, as a parent, has experienced having a child who is currently going through a legal process, there's nothing entertaining about it. Nothing at all. Nothing. And do not forget that Black teens are human beings before they are headlines. If we can do that, starting now and going forward, despite the current climate racially in our country, we'd all be the better for it. Now let's talk about the shit show. Yes, I said shit show. Now let's talk about the shit show. Since we're talking about accountability, let's talk about Donald Trump and the Meet the Press interview. Because I took the time this morning, after seeing a couple of clips, to actually pull it and watch it in its entirety. And baby, if you watched it or saw the clips, you already know it was a lot. It was a lot. I'm going to say it like this. The interview did not give strength. It gave pressure. It gave irritation. It gave crotchety old man. I want the platform to say whatever it is that I said I was going to come on and say. But I don't want any follow-up questions. During the interview, Kristen Walker pressed Donald Trump on election fraud claims. She pressed him on the January 6th related issues. She pressed him on the proposed anti-weaponization fund. And instead of giving a clear, direct answer per usual, backed by evidence, like everyone, I mean, listen here. Even in my conversations with my girlfriends, what they tell me got to be back, but got to be back with some verifiable facts. But instead of doing that, he became combative. He attacked the network, called the people crooked, and eventually just ended the damn interview, patted on the shoulder, and dipped the fuck out. And this is where we need to talk about leadership. If you're going to sit in a seat of power, you should be able to sit in the seat of questioning. That's not unfair. I don't know why he has this persecution complex that is second to none. It's not people being mean to you. That's just a part of damn leadership. And he should know that. Since every time he talks about something not being right or he's questioning about something that's happening right now in the present, it somehow goes back to prior leadership. Somehow, some way. I have heard Barack Obama's name so many times. Barack Obama was president in the teens. That man he's still talking about that goddamn man. When you're running a country or trying to run a country or claiming you are the only person who can fix the country, then you should be able to answer questions from the press without falling apart every time somebody asks you to prove what you're saying. And that's what's been standing out to me, and that's the part that I don't understand why MAGA Republicans don't understand it. I don't understand why that. How are you all so? How can you just hear a person say something, not give any facts, anything that you can reference, and just be like, okay, cool? And we're supposed to be some of the most intelligent people in the world. How? And that's like I said, that's what always stands out to me. Because some people want the microphone, but not the damn responsibility. They want the camera, the crowd, the loyalty without the challenge, correction, or accountability. In the minute that they are pressed, suddenly everything's crooked. Everything crooked. Everybody fake, everybody against them, everybody unfair. But baby, a follow-up question is not oppression. Our current president does not want to do interviews. He wants to give press conferences without questions. He wants to give speeches. He wants to give speeches. A fact check is not a damn attack. And being asked to explain yourself is not persecution, that's accountability. Let me tell you something. When I get in front of people and I say something, whether it's something about something with business, my 9 to 5, anything, if I can stand 10 toes on any statement that I make, and I can do that because it's going to be based in fact, I'm going to be able to pull the receipt, damn it. I'm going to be able to pull the receipt. And if you can't handle public accountability, then maybe the issue is not the damn question. This goes for y'all in y'all personal lives too. If you can't handle accountability in public, then maybe the issue is not the question that you're being asked. Maybe the issue is that you just do not want to get an answer. And instead of having a tantrum and be like, I ain't got to do this shit, because that's what I saw. That's what I saw. That ain't what he said, but that's what I saw. Now, I know some people may want to ask, Cree, why are you talking about Trump in the same episode as Rick Chow and Karmelo Anthony? Because the theme is the same. Accountability. Who gets it? Who avoids it? Who gets crushed by it? Who gets protected from it? And who has to answer for everything, and who gets to storm off when the questions get too direct. That's the connection. In one part of the country, a black family is trying to make sense of a verdict after their child is killed. In another part of the country, a black teenager is currently standing trial while the internet turns him into a symbol. And on national television, a man with tremendous power can be asked a direct question and respond by attacking the person asking. That contrast matters because some people cannot escape accountability even when they're children, and other people can spend their whole lives dodging accountability in the public and still have people calling it strength. That is the part I need us to pay attention to. Now, before we get out of here, I know there was a lot. I know there was a lot, but we gonna go in the mailbag. Y'all know that I love it when y'all send me questions because sometimes the question is not for the person who asked it. Sometimes it's for everybody listening who needed somebody to say it out loud, right? And I know that I had stopped responding. I was very communicative in my inboxes and DMs across my platforms. But I decided if I'm gonna do it, then I might as well answer some of the questions on my podcast. You know what I'm saying? The ones I can't get to, on TikTok or what have you. So we're gonna get into it. I gotta look over here. So I can look at the question. The question says, Cree, do you think boycotting Asian owned businesses in black neighborhoods is the right response after the Rick Chow verdict? Here is my personal opinion. In areas where there are people of any race or nationality, I do feel that boycotting would be the right response. Now, I happen to know that in Colombia, the Chows actually sold that property in 2023. I do not know if the current owners are Asian or not. I do know that they no longer own that location, that store, that Shell station. So boycotting that specific Shell station, if it's not owned by the Chows or a relative of the Chows, would mean absolutely nothing. Boycotting your local nail salon when you never had a problem, you never heard of any problems from anyone in that nail salon. Mm-mm, mm-mm. But in the instances where you have, like we had here in South Carolina, where there is a business owner, and I would say this would apply for me, for a business owner of any race, um, that was being overly aggressive multiple times, where police had to be called, um, being dismissive and overly aggressive period with customers, a boycott would seem to be the best way of doing it. I think boycotting can be a response, but it can't be the only response. And it can't be a lazy response. If we're going to boycott because we are tired of being disrespected, then we need to define what disrespect is. If we're boycotting because we are tired of businesses profiting from black communities without pouring back into those same said communities, then we need to define what reinvestment looks like. If we're going to boycott because we believe that the black dollar should support businesses that criminalize, should not support businesses that criminalize black customers, then we need to organize standards around that and not just anger. Because a boycott A real boycott has structure, demands leadership and communication. A real boycott tells people where not to spend and where to spend instead. Because if all we do is say, do not shop there, but we don't support the black businesses in our area as an alternative, we've not built power. We've only expressed our pain. And again, pain is valid, but pain itself is not a plan. So my answer is for people to spend where you are respected, support black owned businesses by all and any means necessary, hold businesses accountable when they profit from black communities that do not value black lives, demand better from the store owners, landlords, city leaders, law enforcement, and economic development boards in your area. But do not let pain turn into prejudice. Because once the message becomes hate all Asian people, we lost the damn plot. That's not the goal. One thing, I don't believe in matching hate with hate. I do believe in matching energy with energy, with like energy. So I'm going to say about that. But the point is not to become what harmed us. The point is to protect ourselves, honor Cyrus, strengthen our community, and build something that does not leave us dependent on people who do not value us. That is the difference. So if we're going to boycott, let's be strategic. If we're going to protest, let it be purposeful. If we're going to grieve, let it be honest. And if we're going to spend, let it be intentional. Because black dollars have power. Black communities have power. But we have to stop waiting until tragedy happens to talk about where our money is going. We should already know who owns the businesses in our neighborhoods. We should already know who sponsors the schools, the teams, the programs, the families, and all the local events. We should already know which businesses see us as customers, which businesses see us as suspects. And once we know, we need to move accordingly. Simple. Now, as I close this episode, I want to bring it all together. Black people are allowed to grieve. Black people are allowed to be angry. We're allowed to question verdicts. We're allowed to question media narratives. We are allowed to question why black teenagers so often are treated like threats rather than being treated like children. We are allowed to question why powerful people can dodge accountability in front of the whole country and still have people calling it strength. We are allowed to ask hard questions, but we also have to be careful not to let our pain be used against us, because outrage gets attention, but strategy changes conditions. And that's the part that I don't want us to miss. If we are angry about the Rick Chow verdict, let's turn that anger into organization. If we are concerned about businesses in the black neighborhoods, let's turn that concern into support, ownership, and investments. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. It's something that's going to have to happen over time. But we're here. And in order for things to be better for our children and their children, etc., action has to begin now. If we're watching the Karmelo Anthony case, let's remember that two families are hurting. And that black teens deserve humanity even when the conversation is complicated. And if we watch him, Donald Trump melt down on national television because somebody asked him a follow-up question, let's stop pretending that it's avoidance, that is not avoidance, and that is strength. Accountability should not depend on race, age, money, public power, headlines. Accountability should be accountability. And until it is applied fairly, people are going to keep asking questions. And baby, I'm one of those people. Because this is Cree Said what? And around here, we're going to say what part folks keep trying to skip over. So before I let y'all go, let me make sure that you all are connected to Life According to Cree, the podcast, wherever you listen or watch. You can catch the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, and iHeartRadio. And make sure that you all tune in this Thursday for Tap In with Cree, featuring Miss T Jax. We're bringing another real conversation to the table. I'm so excited to start back having guests. I'm telling you. When we tap in, we ain't just talking about it. We get into it, okay? Subscribe to Life According to Cree TV on YouTube. Turn on your notifications and come back ready for our next conversation. After you watch, feel free to come back. Tell me what you think. Do you believe that boycotts are the right response for Black communities who feel disrespected by businesses operating in their neighborhoods? And do you think that America gives Black teenagers the grace it gives everyone else? Hit me in my comments. See you in the comments. Let's talk about it. Thank you all for tuning in to Life According to Cree, the podcast. I am your host, Cree Cole. And until next time, y'all know, live, learn, flourish, and always remember, loving yourself first isn't selfish. It's taking the time to learn how you love yourself in a way where you love others better. So until next time, bye, y'all.